This morning, we have just served an extensive public records request to the governor's office. I will give the rationale as to why we have done that in our attempt to fight for and ensure that the voting rights of all people, regardless of class or income, are protected throughout this state. We've also asked the governor to respond to this matter by Wednesday, publicly. We believe a governor, regardless of party, should be outraged, deeply concerned, whenever there is a sharp decline in any particular demographics, population of this state's registration and voting going down, and particularly if there are possible violations of federal law. Thirdly, we have informed the governor's office that based on the response of his administration and based on our investigation, including the public records that we want to receive quickly, those things will determine whether or not we will launch and call for a federal investigation through the Department of Justice on this matter. Yeah. Last week, there was a data mining analysis of information publicly available from the North Carolina State Board of Elections. And according to an article that first came out in the Daily Calls report, and also later on a special letter that was sent to the State Board of Elections by groups like Democracy North Carolina, our friends at the Southern Coalition, the Lawyers Committee and DEMOS, and A. Philip Randolph, we have found that and have uncovered apparently systematic irregularities in the voter registration efforts that are required, let me emphasize that, required, this is not option, required by the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, the so-called Motor Voter Act. The irregularities that have been uncovered potentially reveal the disenfranchising of tens of thousands of poverty-level North Carolinians, people in poverty of all levels, but also these irregularities are what we possibly see them to be, have had a deep impact, particularly on people of color. Under the McCrory administration that took office in 2013, North Carolina has become the tip of the spear of the GOP's efforts to suppress voting by demographic groups which typically do not lean toward their particular political persuasion, according to this article that's in the Daily Code. What the information that the data mining has revealed is that beginning in 2013, despite this federal law, the National Voters' Rights Act, the practice appears to have created a situation where registering persons at places where they receive public assistance has come to some kind of strange slowdown, almost seemingly a halt. What the data reveals is a 66% decrease of registration at places of public assistance or registrations originating from public assistance program. This is deeply concerning. Yeah. Deeply concerning. The article calls it the McCrory deficit. And what has also been found by this research is that it has happened in 99 out of 100 counties in North Carolina. Today, by delivering this request for public records, the North Carolina NAACP and the Forward Together Moral Movement, we are launching our investigation to ask one simple question: why? Why? In the midst of all of the other voter suppression tactics that we see, rolling back of same-day registration, attempts to put in place the most draconian voter ID law we've seen anywhere in the country, the rolling back of early voting, denial of 16 and 17-year-olds to register, pre-register, all things that deeply impact particularly African Americans. Yes. We now want to ask the question and find the answer: why have we seen such a dramatic decrease of registrations at places where people get public assistance, particularly since federal law requires that these registration takes place? That's right. We have included in our letter both the letter from the advocate groups that are our friends that filed with the State Board of Election, as well as this article that was broken on the Daily Cause. Here is our request specifically to the governor, then I'm going to ask Brother Shirley to come forward. 1, all communications dated between January 4th, 2013 and today, to and from the governor's office and Dr. Wool's office, from any national organizations, including the American Legislative Exchange Council, Americans for Prosperity, the Heritage Foundation, and other national and regional organizations, including Civitas Action, Civitas Institute, John Locke Foundation, which have all been involved in promoting policies that result in the suppression of minority voting rights. Number 2, we request all memorandum, emails, and meeting minutes between the headquarters of the NCDHHS and County Public Assistance PA offices in both directions related to voter registration, the National Voter Registration Act, or HAVA, Help America Vote Act, dated between January 4, 2013 and today. And this is a continuing request. Yes. Number 3, we make a public records request of all memorandums, emails, and meeting minutes between county PA offices managers and their staffs, between PA office managers and their staff, and third-party contractors of NCDHHS in both directions related to voter registration, the NVRA, the HAVA, dated between January 4th, 2013 and today. Number 4, we make a public records request from all county PA offices or third-party contractors of NCDHHS in paper, in electronic form, to DHHS regional and central headquarters for new supplies of the forms used to register PA applicants to vote and to appraise them of their voting rights from 2010 until today. We make the public records request at the DHHS website link http://www.ncdhhs.gov/DSS/FSP.HTM. Dr. Walls, who posted under Food and Nutrition Services case data, the number of applicants taken by month, all the way up to April 2015. This would indicate it is relatively easy for her staff to keep this data up to date. This does not seem to be the case, however, for similar data for the number of county food and nutrition service denials, which indicates the most recent available data is for the 4th quarter of 2012. Number 6, please provide us with all information requested by the attached notice letter to Governor McCrory dated May 8, 2015. We have also asked the governor to come out on this Wednesday, May the 13th, and make a clear statement about his deep concern about this decrease and his own willingness to investigate and to ensure that the public knows why we have seen this decrease and why there is this potential violation of federal law as it relates to the poor citizens of North Carolina. Right. Again, based on the responses that we have, based on our investigation when we receive these public records requests, and we're asking that they be done post-haste, that they not be delayed, we will then determine whether or not we will file federal complaint asking the Justice Department to in fact come in and investigate whether or not the law has been thwarted or the law has been followed. Attorney Al McCrory.
I just have one. I'm Al McCrory. I'm a civil rights lawyer from Chapel Hill and a volunteer attorney with the NAACP. What I've done is to take the graph here, which is on the second page of the Daily Cost article, which is in your packet, so you can actually get it on the computer too, and to blow it up a little bit and just point out that this is the story today. This is what we're here today asking the governor about. Pre-McCrory, this is January 4, 2013 is when McCrory took office, 27 months ago. Pre-McCrory, the registrations for people who were coming into the 100 DSS offices around the state was, it's up and down, you can see it better on this, but the average was 2,187 a month. Got that? McCrory comes in January 4th, 2013, and immediately, no Carolina comeback yet, I don't think, on that first 3 or 4 months. Immediately, the registrations at DSS offices around the state, 99 out of 100 counties, and all that's in this report, drops to what? 736. That's a 66% drop from the 2,187. Statistically significant. Any lawyer would love to get their hands on that and argue it in a court. That's up through March of 2015. I believe, I can't vouch this because I'm not as good as the Daily Cost editor and article writer, but that long link that Reverend Barber read, which is in our letter, if you go to that, any enterprising reporter go to that, all of this data is available on the DHHS website. Did I get everything in there? Altogether, this decrease, this decline, we know cost about 40,000 people did not get registered or should have been registered under the National Voter Rights Act. Thank you.
Bob, do you have any comment?
Well, I would just add, Bob Hall from Democracy, North Carolina. I would add that the folks involved in the letter that was filed with the State Board of Elections, the Department of Health and Human Services, they began doing field investigations in October of last year, actually talking to people as they came out of the public assistance agencies across the state. Uniformly, 75% of the people said they were never asked, never offered a chance to register to vote. They were not asked, do you want to register to vote? They were not asked, would you like to update your address? That is required under federal law. It is a duty, a fundamental duty of these agencies. It's not a tangential add-on. It is a core responsibility of the agencies, just as it is with the DMV. The other thing that makes this especially troublesome is that people who think they are getting automatically registered as they sign up for these programs, they go to vote, and then they are told they are not registered. And we have wiped out same-day registration, which was an effective backup tool, a safety procedure that allowed people who would go to vote and think they were registered through the agency, particularly through the DMV, and they'd find out, no, they weren't. They could then register on the spot. We have wiped that out. So the disenfranchisement that happens through this new era is permanent. It is fixed. It is profound, and it must stop.
Let me see if there are any questions from members of the media at this time regarding this. Again, the story of the day is this data that shows this 66% drop. The story of the day is that what we're talking about is federal law. It's not just a matter of political whim or partisan like. People don't have the option to do it or not do it.
That's right.
Number 3, we are here to ensure that we do not create what is called attention violence against the poor. And so this kind of thing goes on among the poor, and people believe because they don't have the money and the resources, what is done in the dark never comes to the light. Number 4, we're asking the governor, as governor of this state, not as a Republican or Democrat, but governor of this state who's supposed to be concerned about all citizens, to respond strongly, to show his own displeasure with this happening, and to ensure that he finds out exactly what has happened and stop it.
Yes.
And stop it. We're talking about possibly 40,000 citizens, human beings, persons of this state. And we know the only place that there is some form of equality is at the voting box.
That's right.
Yeah.
Poor people don't have the lobbyists. They can't pay and they can't contribute to the campaign funds, but they can register to vote.
Yes.
And there is, right now, as we see it, no reason that we should see this kind of drop.
That's right.
Graphically shown both in this report. We stand unified with those who have already filed a letter with the State Board of Elections. We too will also send tomorrow to the State Board of Elections, particularly a public request for the State Board of Elections. And our lawyers and our team will be going through this data. We hope that the governor's office will not in any way delay these public records. And if we find there's any delay, or we begin to look more closely and closely at this data and see these violations of federal law, we will, in fact, file a federal complaint with the U.S. Department of Justice and ask them to come into North Carolina to ensure that the federal constitutional rights of all citizens are being protected.
That's right.
Thank you so much.